So this video is going to be called "The Illusion of Inclusion is Still Extremely Imminent." And I feel like when I was younger, especially going through the education system, workforce system, I didn't really feel like I fit in, and having to be surrounded by a group of people that are just so different from me and my own personality and the things that I enjoy, and never being able to express the truest, most authentic version of myself kind of just left me feeling like I was having to present this inauthentic version of myself to get people to like me, and studying and paying attention to what they like and relating myself as much as possible to what they liked in order to be accepted. And yeah, when you do that, it gets you through the door, but you just compromise yourself every day, little by little, to the point where you don't have the patience or energy. At some point, you grow up out of that, and you don't have the patience or energy to continue compromising yourself for these random people who don't really care about you. Because if they did, they'd find a way to like fit in the things that you like and find what actually piques your interest and relate that towards the context of a conversation or interaction alongside the things that they like as well. But I felt like it was too much of a one-way street. And so it was just kind of time for me to a couple of years ago, I just made the decision in my mind, yeah, no, I don't really belong in these places. I never have. And it was a waste of time. And I guess I had to go through it because of circumstances, being young and having to be in education up until a certain age and all of this stuff. When you've already been tired of it, I'm just like, I want to get up to my creative habits and hobbies and just express those for a living instead of having to do all this extra stuff that doesn't make any type of sense to me, you know? And so now that I'm more grown, I can actually do that and not really give a damn about what anyone has to say because I'm an adult, right? I got my own life to live. I only have one life to live as far as I'm aware, unless you're convinced in the concept of potential reincarnation. Yeah, that we come back and we live different lives as opposed to the previous life or current life that we have now. And I do in a sense kind of take up that notion that we do reincarnate. I feel like maybe not as a human, maybe as something else. I'm not even too sure, you know. But it's certainly an interesting outlook, an observation that you could have and that you could make. But it's kind of intangible at the same time, you know. You'll never know anyway. And even if so, our memory probably gets wiped of all of our previous existences so we have the ability, I guess, to focus on what is now. And I went a little bit off topic there, but to relate this back to the video, I think, or going back to the video and the main concept of it is just more so that I never felt like I fit in anywhere. And especially being in like white spaces with white people, being the norm and being the average like individual within all people within the space, right? And being raised in white neighborhoods and all this type of stuff. And even though it was low income for the most part, until I moved to a bit more of a nicer place, and even then I still felt in fact I felt even worse when I moved to a nicer area, because it was more so like, okay, the people here don't even talk, they don't have a personality, they probably work in some regular finance job and earning a decent amount of money, maybe high 5 figures to low 6 figures a year, but they don't even like acknowledge your existence because they just view you as like, okay, you look completely different to me, so I probably shouldn't talk to you and we shouldn't have any type of connection whatsoever. So it was just this, even though we're living near each other, it was still this like segregated type of ideology that they had internally. And there was no way to navigate that other than just being avoidant completely about it. And so that plays a part in your mental health. And it's just kind of like, okay, I see the way people perceive me off of the way I look. All right, okay, got it. I'm going to move accordingly. And so, to be honest, I don't hate white people at all. I like white people. I guess I have a white friend I'd say I'm really close to right now, but that's just one friend, And I could say that I could probably count on my hand maybe one hand, maybe two hands at the most, how many white friends I could say I considered that I've had within my lifetime, right? So far, I'd say. And most of that just came from being in like these simulated environments that you have no control over, but you're inserted into, you know, like a video game, and you just have to pick up the pieces of what you got to deal with. And that's kind of, what our upbringings are like, going through school and then going to the workplace. And so, yeah, you just have these random comrades that you chill with. But then you get older and you realize, like, we're completely different. We're not similar really in the slightest. And the only things we had similar going on was that current period of our life where we were doing the same things, But now that we actually get this opportunity going into adulthood to express more of our true authentic selves, you can just see that our interests are vastly different. And so I don't hate white people, but I don't particularly like them. And I don't particularly like any person, to be honest with you. I'm kind of more like on my loner type of vibe. I always had this inside me, and I didn't necessarily grow up like that because I had a lot of friends and stuff, or I would say companions or associates, really, not really friends, but looking back at it, it was really just companions and associates. And I had a lot of those people I grew up around, but as my environment started to change, kind of realized more so that, I like my alone time as well. And there'll be a period where I get back to having like a large group or circle of friends again. Like, you know, for example, as I gain more status and more social recognition, I can definitely leverage that and, have friends in the industry who do content and link up with creators and collaborate on projects. I can for sure do that. Um, and for as long as I'm working, that's going to feel like a friendship until maybe I'm not working or I'm doing something else, right? And then at that point, I might look back later on in my life and be like, it was just a companionship, not really a friendship. But I just feel like, being in these white centric spaces and people just looking at you like, you know, you're not as good as me because for some reason somehow you're here, but you didn't come out with the same skin tone as me. Your skin is darker, mine is lighter, and everyone else's here is lighter as well. So why is yours darker? You must not be as good as the rest of us, but you're here. So if you're here, we just need to find a way to get you out of here because you're kind of like a sword to look at. You stand out, but not in a good way. You feel it as in like people judging you in a bad way. And they'll smile to your face, but it doesn't change the fact that like they might say some remarks as they're walking away and you can overhear it slightly. And it's like, oh, okay, so that's how you really feel when, you feel comfortable enough to be authentic about the way you perceive me. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not really complaining because I feel like that's natural human nature almost to kind of, in a sense, just judge someone like that. It would be probably the same thing if one white person was around a bunch of black people, right? We'd all be thinking the same thing, like, what's this dude doing over here? Like, what's this person doing over here? Like, so I get it. I get it. And so I feel like a lot of black people kind of have to stop trying to be so included in certain spaces and things like that. And if you're in a certain space, you're in white spaces, and you're a minority person, you don't have to be black, but you could be like Asian, or like you could be like, African or Asian or Latino, Latina, however you want to call it, right? You could be another person of color, but you don't have to like try and assimilate so hard with these other people. It's just that the environment is gonna make you influenced enough to have to do that for a while and then see that it really doesn't work over a long period of time anyway. So that's what I learned. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave then. If I don't really belong here, then why am I wasting my time? So I'm just gonna dive more into the things that I want to do and have my alone time and be around and be selective and choose the people I want to be around. And those that I don't want to be around, simply restrict their access to me as much as possible. And I say this, and I know I live in a public world, and so with many other human beings occupying the earth, and especially in this country where it's white centric, right? So it's a white nation, and so it's like, of course I'm gonna be in and around white people all the time because they're the majority like race within this nation at least. So it's just kind of like standard, it's mandatory. But I just think even then it's like, I don't know. I just I'm kind of like, I'm gonna work on the things that I want to work on and prioritize that over trying to have these random accomplices who don't really add anything to my life, but they actually just take away. Because the time I'm spending with them doing God knows whatever they want me to do, or what they're doing, right? Or what I'm doing with them, I could be using to put that energy into something more creative, and substantial for me, myself, regardless of how they feel about it. And regardless of how they feel about what I'm doing and what I could achieve. I know what I'm doing and what I could achieve. I know I could get to 1 million subscribers. I know I could get up to 1 million views on a short or a video. So I'm really not tripping about, being in those corporate spaces like I once was. It was some of my most depressing moments, and it just felt like super restricting and judgmental. And you know, I had to experience that for me to grow and be like, okay, you don't really belong here. And none of it was in my control, because if I'm born and I look a certain way, but I'm in a certain space at the same time, and these are things I can't really control, you know, at least not up until I get older, then I just have to go through it and experience that for what it is. And I did that, and there are some things that I took away from that experience. And I'm like, all right, well, maybe it's best I don't prolong this experience in my life, because I'm always going to find myself ass kissing and dick sucking to the white man just for me to try and get a potential like pay rise, like, or I don't know, a promotion or something like that. And I just don't find that appealing at all. First of all, I'm a straight man, and a man of God. And second of all, it's just kind of like, it's not even worth it, even if I was to do that. So that's what we have here. That's kind of the situation. And so it's like, I'm not doing that. I feel like black people or people of color, as I was saying before, right, gotta find their own way in the world. Like, not saying you can't be in a corporate environment, but maybe, I don't know, be around more people of color within that corporate environment, or like be in a corporate environment that is like person of color owned, something. Maybe that is the way to go about it, and then try and leverage your position from there, because you're going to feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more ease with people who look like you, relate to you, kind of know your story. So things ain't got to be explained in a certain way, and they ain't going to be misinterpreted and judged and all this type of stuff. It's like, that is too much going on for me to allow into my mental real estate, to have to then balance that with being able to just like live life. Like, I just want to live life. I have to think I have to think about a lot of things as it is, like how I'm going to get my next meal, like I don't know, a lot of things, like how's my family keeping up, like and so it's like, do I also want to be thinking about what's this what is this person potentially like racist or something, like I don't know. And it's just a lot. So I was like, drop that, make my life more simple and less complicated, and then I can actually have more bandwidth to focus on the things that matter the most to me, and leave all that BS to the side. So that's what I did. I just was like, man, this environment, it just spikes my cortisol in such a way that it's not worth it. It's just gonna have me running around like a headless chicken trying to serve these so-called masters. And it's like, if I want to be a master myself, I'm not going to remain to be a servant. And as a servant, I've learned how to become the master. I just see, that's just the way I see it. When I see how the game is being played, it's like, like a lot of the times in life, you're gonna have to start out as a servant in the endeavors that you do, and just the overall hierarchy and structure of the way things are, but over time you can manipulate your life from the position of having to start as a servant into becoming the master. But you just have to study and observe enough to understand how the master came to be, and how they continue to flourish and prosper and strive. And I understood that, and then I was like, no, I'm gonna start my own thing now. Like, I understand how you started your thing, but I'm not gonna help you continue to develop the thing that you started. I'm gonna start my own thing and get people to help me continue to develop the thing that I start. You know, it's like flipping the roles. It's playing the game like in reverse, basically. But starting out the quote unquote right way at the start, right? But now it really feels right because I get to do what I want. But I only really get to do what I want because I have I have enough confidence to do it and enough competence to do it. So, but if you don't have any of those things, I mean, you have to kind of be in certain spaces where you group up with people and, people that you don't like oftentimes, just to get an insight into how things run and work. And then once you get that insight, you can then move on to go on and start your own thing, you know? And they might tell you you're not going to make it starting your own thing, but it's like, yeah, I am. Like, I've seen how things run long enough for me to be able to do it my own way, you know? The only thing I'm used to the actual knowledge of it. The only thing I'm not used to is just, the applying all of that knowledge, because it's a lot of application that has to be put behind that knowledge for it to be like, accessible and then become successful by it being accessible and, consumed at large by the masses. So that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I'm doing. And I think more people should do that. And I think it's not to say, oh, I only want to be around people who look like me as well, because there's a lot to gain from people who don't look like me because they see life from a different perspective, and they're able to give me a lot of insight. I've gotten some of the greatest insight. The greatest insights from my life came from white people so far. I've gotten great insights from people of all different races and colors, but just for the fact that I've been exposed to more white people, like in person and digitally, virtually and physically as well. Like, the most valuable information I ever took away was from white people, but at the same time, it can just be like I don't know, it can be such a like weight to have to try and act white whilst being black in these white spaces for a prolonged period of time. So I'm glad I kind of picked up on that early, and I said, no, I'm going to burn myself out in these type of environments. If I keep going like this, I'm just going to end up like perpetually a slave, because that's the way they're going to look at it, and so I can't let them look at me like that way. Like, at first I might appear to be that way, but after, I got to go and start my own thing and make these people look at me like a boss, like to the point where I could have some white slaves, but I'm the black boss. You see what I'm saying? And so and I can actually be like the one to decide how things go, And so I wanted to call the shots, I wanted to be the big boss and the big dog and make all the moves. And that's what I'm doing right now. And it's not easy, but, every day it gets a little bit easier. I'll say that, It's like starting a couple of businesses, trying to build up some sources of income. It can take some time. But if you have talents and hobbies and things that you're interested in, you're going to get so lost into these things that the time isn't going to matter. And by the time things take off, like, it's already second nature to you or to me. So it'll be at the point where you're so advanced and so, experienced in the things that you're doing that by the time people give you the recognition, you don't even really care anymore. But it's just like a nice little validation ego boost, So I guess that's what it is. I didn't want to be out here trying to boost other people's ego while not getting my ego boosted, and yeah, that's what it is, like, I'm already dark skinned, so people already think what they think of me. Maybe he's a scammer, maybe he's a trapper, maybe he's I don't know, or he's just a rapper, maybe he's I don't know, maybe he's overly confident, or maybe he's underconfident. So we can find what flaw he has, and we're going to study him to find what flaw he has and use that against him, because we already don't like him anyway. We already view him as opposition, So we need to make him as weak as possible so our daughters don't potentially in the future take an interest in him. So we see some potential, but we're gonna focus more so not on the potential, but on the shortcomings, you know, of who we're going to focus on the shortcomings, right? We're going to focus on his shortcomings and we're going to take him down that way, you know, because we know, especially because we know he has potential to succeed, you know, if he's able to see that for himself and fully invest and dive into that, that's going to be dangerous. So we're not going to allow him to get to that point. That's kind of what the system wants to do. And it wants to do this to all people. It's not just people of color, but it's literally everybody. Like everyone's a person of color anyway. So when I say that, yeah, I'm specifically referring to like minority groups here. And so white people are not generally looked at as minority group, right? They can be in certain circumstances and situations, but I'm referring to more so, yeah, like people who are generally looked at, I would say, as minorities, right? But it really applies to everybody at the same time. So you can interpret it in either or sense or fashion. So my whole thing is just like, I'm not gonna dumb myself down in order for someone else to be able to take advantage of me when I can take advantage of me actually being smart, right? And just showing that on a consistent enough basis for it to pay off in the end. And this is something that hasn't been easy to do, and it's been so much trials and tribulations, and I'm still fighting, and I'm not going to give up, and I'm just going to continue, and I know it's going to pay off for me. Like, so this isn't a call for help in the slightest, but it's more so just a perspective I wanted to share and an insight into like what it's going to be like transitioning from the corporate world to the business world, right? And doing that full time, you know, because I'm not really with the whole part-time corporate, part-time business. You can do it, and for some people it works, but I personally get so invested into business that I tap out of corporate completely. So it's kind of one of the other for me. And I guess partially I'm in corporate because if I have a business, I'm a corporation, right, in a sense. But I'm talking about what the general understanding, societal understanding of when you use the term corporate, you know, which means school, work, you know, 9 to 5. School and work are both pretty much 9 to 5, roughly. That's the time, unless you do a night shift. But even then, still what, like, I don't know, 9 in the morning, I don't know, 9 at night until 5 in the morning, you know, that's a night shift. So yeah, it's the same stuff, you know, it's the same amount of time, just a different placement within the day. So that was the short video I guess I wanted to make. Is just that if you don't feel included anywhere, you know, and you don't feel, you know, and you feel like you're standing out somewhere, right? You feel like you're somewhere where you stand out, but it's not in a good way, it's in a bad way. It's like there's a negative connotation behind why you're standing out. You probably should consider maybe relocating from that place because it's gonna like weigh on you and bring you down, you know? But yeah, I'm so chill now, and my cortisol is so low. I know that I've saved myself years of stress from working a corporate job if I didn't really want to work a corporate job and I wasn't really invested in the topic at hand, like maybe dealing with insurance and having to recite scripts that I didn't create and therefore I don't have any sense of emotional attachment towards. Because the thing is, when it comes to like making money, part of making money is logical, but the other part is also emotional. You have to have like an emotional attachment to a degree to making money. And I'll tell you why. Because if you don't have any sort of emotional attachment towards what you do to make money, you're not going to feel proud of yourself. And therefore, it like at some point, you'll only make money up to a certain point where you suppressed emotions for so long that they're going to have to come out. And when they do, you're going to end up kind of crashing out, you know? And crashing out could look different to everyone, right? It doesn't have to be this huge drama-fested activity or scenario, but it can just be like a shut off, like you just mentally like completely switch for whatever reason. And it's just kind of a prolonged sense of like hurt that you've had, and now you just can't deal with it anymore. So you just, I don't know, you just kind of like drop everything when it's like least expected, at least to everyone else in and around you, right? And that's what happened to me. And because I was just like, I'm not living the life I truly wanted to live. I knew I had so much potential. I knew I could sit here and make long form content in this format and deliver it to people who need to hear it. So why would I sell myself short for some employer who doesn't give a damn about me, and they have my number on they have my employee number on a name tag, and I'm just a cog in the machine. I'm just you know, another robot in the sequence. I'm just the next person in line. But you know, if I get fired, they're gonna hire someone else to replace me the same day. So it's just like, why do I want to be in a situation where I'm not really valued for what I bring to the company, and and my participation in all of this? So that was me. I just recognized my value, and I'm like, I am $1 million person. I'm $1 million man. I'm $1 billion man. I'm $1 trillion man. I'm whoever I want to be, and I'm whatever I say I am. And your thoughts are so powerful, and so I just had to understand that all of this is energy, and you know, wherever I put my energy into, that is what's going to blossom as a result of my, you know, the action behind it. So whether it's negative or positive, whether it's something I want to do or not, I'm going to get some result from it. So I wanted to save more of my energy and save more of my youth and put my youth into business now, so my older self can thank my younger self for doing so. So this is what I make these videos for. And even when I make this content, you know, I wanted to say, I don't make this content for the viewers. And maybe that's something I'm going to speak about in another video, because I'm quite passionate about this ideology, and it might be something I have to turn into a full video. I'm not sure yet, but I don't make this content for you guys watching. Like, if you find some value, that's great. But this content, I mean, I do make it in a sense for you guys watching, but mostly I also make it for myself. Like, this is just a time capsule I look back on, and I'm like, okay, how was I thinking at a certain point in time? Because that's interesting to me as well. I like exploring philosophy. So I make this content mostly for myself, you know. And I don't really make it for the viewers, because if I was to make it for you guys and I wasn't to be authentic and genuine and give you my life experience, but I was to make something that's a bit more generalized and mainstream and just kind of whatever you wanted to hear, it wouldn't hit the same, because you can hear that from 10 other, 100 other, 1,000 other, and 1,000,000 other creators. Like, I don't know how many other creators you could hear it from, but it's a lot, you know. And so my unique message is going to always stand out. It's going to be said different. It's going to be felt different because it's said different. So, and for the ones who are, for the small minority who are extremely similar, that's who it's going to hit for. Like, not for the mass majority, although it may be exposed to them, because if the small minority consume it and then it's being played in the algorithm, it continues to pick up, then yeah, sure, everyone's invited. But I know that not everyone's going to stay. You know, some people will leave the party earlier than others. It is what it is, you know. They might leave the party before certain things start to happen, and they'll miss out on the full wide spectrum of what's really going on, but that's okay. But I make these videos for myself, you know. I do like hearing myself back a lot, you know. But that's also because I'm really self-critical. And I do a good job at this. I'm super invested. So that's just really what it is. But yeah, I hope I got my point across clearly. And that's the end of the video.